And how's it going, everybody? Welcome to Full Press Hockey Weekly here on twitter.com/fullpressnhl, twitch.tv/full press coverage, Facebook, YouTube, and Full Press Coverage Radio. Mike Straw, joined as always by Chris Wassel. Jim Biringer should be joining us momentarily. Chris, we have a lot to get to today, but first, how are you doing on this beautiful day?
Hey, look at that. Look at the man has joined us. Look at that.
Yo, what's up?
Timing. Welcome to 2022.
Yo, I'm here.
See, you made it. All is good in the world. It's gonna be a crazy one tonight, no question, guys.
I mean, it's hard to break away from Little Big League. Sorry, guys.
That is true. That is. Yeah, that is.
Yeah, but we got to, and for the first time in a long time, we have a lot of hockey to talk about.
Hockey.
A lot. And it's not just COVID related, but we have a monster of a show, guys. We have Evander Kane. We have Canada's COVID restrictions. We have how should the NHL rehandle this rescheduling, because there's a lot. The failure, and I'm so happy to talk about this later on, the failure of the Seattle Kraken, because I've been preaching it since the start, since the summer, since the beginning of our show. Anyway, we have the Edmonton Oilers, the Penguins, the Bruins, the Kings, the Vancouver Canucks. We have a lot to get to tonight. And before we do, make sure you are following us on Twitter at Full Press NHL, Full Press Coverage, Full Press Radio. Make sure you are following us on twitch.tv/Full Press Coverage. Like us on Facebook at Full Press NHL. There's a lot to do, but it's all worth it. Look up Full Press Coverage on YouTube. Subscribe there so we can grow the Full Press Network. Make sure not only are you ready for Tuesday show every Tuesday night at 8 o'clock, but also last Friday debuted Mike Saves Hockey. I went pretentious. I talked to Ian. He put me on the spot on his show on Full Press Radio Live on Friday morning, and I went with Mike Saves Hockey, and my first show I went off. And every week I'm going to find ways to go off, and it's going to be fantastic. And you guys will be dropping in from time to time. We'll have some special guests from outside the Full Press.
It warms my heart.
Yo, easy there, Jim Cornette. All right, easy there.
I'm going to go full Jim Cornette 98. Remember when he would just come on and for 5 minutes each show talk about what was bothering him with the World Wrestling Federation? Except I'm not going to be a piece of garbage human being while I do it.
No, man.
But
yeah,
that's for another show that Jim and I will eventually start doing.
Yes.
But for now, let's jump right in. We're going to talk Evander Kane because this situation, and I got thoughts on the NHLPA, and I get why they're doing what they're doing, but I got thoughts on that. But Evander Kane, for those who don't know, San Jose Shark, violated COVID protocols ad nauseum, suspended 25 games, sent down to the AHL, kept violating COVID protocol, and the Sharks are like, you know what, screw this. We don't need this headache. Let's get rid of him here. Got rid of him and put him on unconditional waivers for terms of terminating his contract. The NHLPA wasn't happy, but we'll talk about the NHLPA side of things in a minute. Jim, I'll start with you. Surprised, not surprised, when the Sharks decided to cut loose Evander Kane?
I mean, not really surprised, to be honest. They've been trying to get rid of this guy since the beginning of the season, to be honest. I mean, they've tried every which way but loose to get rid of him. They dropped him down to the minors, tried to bury his money. They don't want to pay him. We've heard reports guys in the locker room don't like him. This is what three teams now: Buffalo, Winnipeg, now San Jose. He's done. So it's no surprise that the Sharks were going to try to move him, try to buy him out. I would have been interested to see, what the PA side of this would have been if his contract wasn't $7 million a year. If it was less than this, they would have just been like, okay, we'll let it slide for a little bit. With $21 million left on the table, I think they're definitely going to put up a fight. So I understand why they filed the grievance. They have to, you have to protect the players and this and that and the whole thing. But, they decide when they want to protect the players. They don't always do it. But no, not really surprised. And I knew once he was going to be put on, waivers for buyout and termination of contract, you knew teams were going to come calling because he was going to be a cheap player for 1 year at the league minimum, prorated. They were going to get a bargain. And, when Evander Kane's on and he puts all the crap aside, he's a good hockey player. And
I think he's a very good hockey player. Like when he was due and before they traded him and before he left Buffalo, I was all for re-signing him. I was, because overall he hadn't been that much of a headache. There was a couple instances where, people lost their mind because he took a private helicopter on a day off to fly 40 minutes to Toronto to watch a basketball game and then come back. And people lost their mind for that. There was the biggest thing, and I'm not going to, no need to overlook this, was some issues, domestic issues at a local hotel. But those, if my recollection serves me correctly, ended up being resolved with no charges or anything like that. But as far as like in the locker room, no one had bad things to say about him. It wasn't a situation like in Winnipeg that he eventually had to get out of there because they were messing with his gear and stuff. It wasn't anything like that. But yeah, now we're at the point of like, this is beyond selfish at this point.
Yeah, exactly. Beyond selfish. I mean, when he was there in the beginning at San Jose, everything to be worked out. He was producing. He was one of their best players. But, eventually, his time and his welcome in San Jose ran out. I mean, again, he might have been trying to push buttons to get out of there anyway because the Sharks weren't going anywhere. But considering where the Sharks are now, they kind of need a player like that because they're right in the playoff mix. But you know what? They decided they didn't want the headache anymore. And, they got a list of, I've heard, 10 to 15 teams that are interested in Kane, and the Oilers, Panthers, and Lightning are top three. And it's interesting because with the Oilers, if he eventually does sign there, like all reports indicate, you're gonna wonder what the COVID situation is like with him. Is he still unvaccinated? Is he vaccinated? Because if he's not vaccinated, the Oilers don't have him at home games right now.
Yeah, and Chris, that brings. I mean, we'll get to the Edmonton Oilers later on because, and we'll come back to Evander Kane with the Oilers. But if this vaccination thing is as big of a mess as it has been in the COVID protocols, why would the Oilers or any team want to take that on? It's not like, I mean, granted, yes, very cheap for a likely middle six forward at this point, but is that worth it? Especially if you're a team like Edmonton, and again, we'll get more detail of them soon, but you're a team like them trying to stay afloat in playoff battle. Is that worth the potential off-ice conflicts between team players in the organization?
I mean, it does seem to be an odd mix because look, Evander Kane honestly is a top six winger. I mean, and what Edmonton really needs more than anything else is they need scoring depth in the worst way. I mean, we all know that, but they need a goaltender that can stop a shot on the glove side, for crying out loud, because that seems to like have gone again and vanished. I presume there's other moves on the horizon. I hope for Ken Holland's sake, there is other moves on the horizon. But, to answer the simple question, is Evander Kane worth the headache? He's worth the headache for some teams, but it just doesn't seem like it's going to be worth it for Edmonton. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but there just seems to be a lot of red flags here as to what they're looking for as opposed to what they actually need.
And we'll get in more on the Oilers because all intents purposes, everybody just seems like a decision on that should be coming tonight. Maybe while we're on the air, who knows? But we're gonna stick in Canada and we're gonna move over to COVID restrictions. Canada continues to have very strict rules on fans in arenas and everything of the like, to the point Winnipeg is looking at potentially playing games in Saskatchewan in Saskatoon. Teams Toronto. I mean, you saw the Winter Classic, and then that same day a game in Toronto, and the juxtaposition of a packed house at Target Field. Granted, do I think arenas should be full? No. But I've also become numb to the fact that people are going to do what people are going to do, and they don't care about their fellow person, and that's just what we got to live with at this point. But I see, as strict as these things are, can the NHL convince anything or do anything to hopefully allow fans back in these buildings or more fans? Is there any way the NHL can get through to the Canadians, the Canadian government, about this?
I mean, to be honest, I said it on my show and I've said it numerous places. The NHL cannot let the provincial governments ruin their season anymore. They need to be like, look, either you let us play with full buildings or 75% full because of revenue, or we're going to have to move these games elsewhere. And I know that's easy to say because with 7 Canadian teams, it's not like the NBA. It's not like the Major League Baseball where, there's only one team and the Blue Jays can play in Dunedin for a little bit and then they can go to Buffalo and then come home, or the Raptors can play down in the States. They have 7 Canadian teams to figure this out, but each province is different. And the worst culprit's Quebec and Ontario right now, where it's like, you can't have anybody in the building. Well, that forces Canadian teams to be on the road for the months of January until they can figure this thing out. Maybe even longer. They're going to have a back-loaded home schedule. All these teams are, until they figure this situation out. But, they can't let the provincial governments anymore run this thing because they have a season to play and they need to get 82 games in for the sake of the revenue and the sake of the salary cap.
Yeah, it's at a point, and the players are just, they want to play. The league wants them to play. They want fans there, and it's like the league does not want empty arena games because revenue's a big deal. They lost so much money last year playing in front of empty arenas that even 50% capacity they'll handle. But once it went lower than that, they just seem to not want to deal with it anymore.
No, yeah, that absolutely right. I mean, the frustration is more than palpable. I mean, Murray, Pam, and I had talked about it like ad nauseum with Ottawa and particularly Montreal. I mean, look, Montreal is a mess with COVID. I mean, they're probably in a different situation compared to some of the other Canadian teams, just because, I mean, at one point, I think almost that entire roster had COVID, but just based on what we've been reading.
Hey, Chris, should they pull a Mighty Ducks and just forfeit the rest of the season?
You really want to give them the number 1 draft pick?
I mean,
no.
Would they still get it because of the ping pong balls, though? With the luck of the Canadians?
It's a good question. I wouldn't want to be there for that. That goes too far south. But I mean, there's a lot of great questions and sort of like very few answers to this. But it is clear. I mean, look, Ottawa is a prime example of this. They just want to. It's not only to the point that they just want to play, but they've just had enough of this. Yeah. And the it's not even fan frustration, guys. It's player frustration that's been probably the loudest out of anything. You hear like Brady Tkachuk's voice the other day on Ottawa radio, and it's like almost like a kid that, for the lack of a better term, his ice cream cone was taken away from him with a full like triple scoop of ice cream there, and it was just taking like snacks from him.
It's crazy. I mean, sorry. I know. Murray had a good article out there about the frustration the Senators are in right now in regards to this COVID situation, because it feels like they're off I was in with the Islanders those last couple of days, listening to their press conferences. They're just frustrated. They're itching to play. Players want to play. And you go back to that game in Toronto the other night with Edmonton in the building. Imagine the packed, Scotiabank Scotiabank Center, whatever the name of the building is now in Toronto. And that place would have been sold out for Matthews and McDavid. And this game, even if McDavid wasn't playing, people were going to go see that game. And it just felt like last year, and it felt worse because there was just no action. There was no fans cheering. And to go backwards is not what you want right now. And the players don't want it. And that was one of the reasons why Paul Maurice resigned, is like he just couldn't take no fans in the building and the bubble and this whole COVID stuff. And players are just getting really frustrated because they just want to play these games. They don't want to be sitting anymore.
No, it's hard. You can't blame them for feeling this way. And you can't blame anybody for feeling this way at this point. And it doesn't seem to be getting better right now, but it seems just to be getting worse before it gets better. And speaking of trying to get better, we have a lot of games that need to get rescheduled. Of the 104 as of this morning, of the 104, 6 have been rescheduled. And we know there's going to be more postponed. How do these games get played?
Do we have the wheel yet? By the way,
we need that wheel.
We need that wheel because we just need to
get the wheel.
Get the wheel, because I think this is where the wheel comes in. Same with suspensions. We're going to spin the wheel. I mean, look, I brought this up the other day when somebody asked me about this. You know that Schedule B that the NHL was supposedly had? I don't really think they had one, because I think they were banking on going to the Olympics. Yep. And with this COVID mess, it threw a wrench into play, because if there was a true Schedule B, like they said there was, how come it's not been released yet?
And clearly, there is no plan B.
No. There is no plan B.
No, and it's frustrating because, you're probably right. The NHL, we got a plan, but there's no plan. It's like, what? All right, what? Well, I don't know. I never thought I'd get this far, and that's
right.
That's kind of how it seems like they've been going for so long, and we've talked about it before. The idea of playing games in different arenas, playing games earlier in the day, having teams come to the arena and play a game.
I got one for you.
Games. It's just, how are you getting this many in without ultimately playing into August?
I got one for you. Okay, so let's take, for example, teams that are off, right? Take, for example, I'm just going to use the Metro area because Chris and I are in this Metro area. Say, for example, the Devils and Rangers are off at the same time. They have a game postponed, right? Say the team that they're playing has COVID, whatever. How come they can't just put those two teams together and just play a quick series and get that part of the schedule out of the way? So I understand their games spread out throughout the schedule, but that's what you're going to have to start to do now. Start putting matchups together that are unconventional or a quick series kind of thing to get games in, especially when teams are off. Okay, used to are off. Okay, used to are off when you're playing. Okay, done. You're going to have to move events like Disney on Ice or concerts or whatever to fit these games in, because there's the 3-week window in February is not there. We all know it's not there.
Yeah, this isn't like what people think it is. I was amused by some, and people that like basically have, for the lack of a better term, more media connections than we do, saying that, they can get these games in, and no, sometime in May is about the earliest the regular season's getting done, and we should just probably learn to accept it at this point as our Lord and Savior of hockey do. But that's how it. This is the reality. This is where we're at. There's logistics involved, and the NHL has to somewhat kowtow to those to a point. or at least enough. I mean, there's one big thing that they have control of right now, and it's the one thing that they're going to have to use. And like Jim said, that's what Canada. We're gonna have it here in New Jersey soon enough because, well, for those that don't know today, our governor decided to jam another state of emergency down our throats for another however many days. And all it's really doing is screwing everything up. I mean, at some point, you don't like to say it, but we're going to have to like something's got to give. We got to learn to live with things.
I mean, I was going to use the phrase, you just got to play through it. I mean, the NFL figured out a way to do it. The NBA's figuring out a way to do it. I mean, the NHL has to figure out a way to just play these games. And I brought up a good point. And I asked.
The one difference is like the NFL doesn't have Canada to worry about, and the NBA just has Toronto.
Right, exactly. But they still figured out a way to do it. And they still figure out to get away because they're like, okay, you can sign these players or you can bring players in and this and that. And that's what I thought the taxi squad was all about. Oh, we're going to bring back the taxi squad. Okay, we're not going to have to worry about postponements yet. We still have postponements. Like the other day, the Devils are like, okay, we're going to assign these guys back to the taxi squad. Okay. That makes sense. Maybe guys are coming off the COVID list. Oh, no, we're not playing a game against Tampa on Monday night because too many COVID guys. Then what was the point of bringing the guys back down to the taxi squad?
What it bothers me is because we got 2 games tonight postponed: Calgary and New York, and then Philly and Carolina.
Tomorrow, the weird thing with Philly and Boston. They practiced today.
Yeah, I don't get it. Like tomorrow with Montreal and Boston, then Edmonton, Minnesota, 2 games supposed to be played in Canada. It's just become a massive a mess. It continues to be a mess. I mean, even in other sports, the National Lacrosse League, for example, announced today that a game on the 22nd is postponed until a future date to be decided between Buffalo and Halifax because of Nova Scotia's restrictions and Canada's restrictions. It's just a mess. It's like they can't do anything because they don't want to play in front of these teams.
That's true. I mean,
it's crazy. It's crazy. Sorry for the correction there. I know you said that.
According to NHL.com, it's postponed in the game. Okay, they did switch it. So they have the game in Montreal.
It's going to look a little.
Their schedule.
Some of the schedules are going to look weird.
Yeah.
Why not on NHL.com? Right? Why not just take the game you postponed off?
Right, exactly, and just be like, okay, we're playing it in Boston.
Somebody forgot that one. They
somebody forgot that one, Mike.
Well, look.
Either way, the game in Edmonton is postponed.
Yeah, that game's not happening.
That one is not happening. Score Mobile had that the other day. It was pretty funny. I was like, the Edmonton is playing such and such, but the other game, Edmonton game, is postponed. I'm like, cool, split swag preseason. All right.
Well, I'm curious to see if Calgary and Ottawa happen on Thursday because it's 2 Canadian teams, so that'd be interesting to see if that one gets played.
Yeah, I don't know where to go with this with them. The league needs to figure something out, even if it comes down to, you know what, we're playing these games in front of fans and we're playing them outside of your country. We don't care anymore.
Right.
We're going to put these games in Minnesota. We're going to put these games in Detroit. We're going to put these games at least near the border, but we're going to put these games in Seattle. You have Seattle now for Vancouver. Like it's right. Excuse me. It's right there. Like there are all these. You put Winnipeg, Manitoba. Put Winnipeg in Minnesota, and there you go. You got Manitoba.
I like it.
You got bring down Toronto to Buffalo. You got Detroit. You got Ottawa. Bring them down. You got Montreal and bring them down. Like you just do what you got to do at this point to get these games in because we're getting to a point where so many games are going to be postponed that they're going to have no other option than to play a shortened season. You can only go so far with these postponements before you have to, because then you got to start thinking of next season and the PA. You need a certain amount of time off. These players are going to want the time. And if we get to the point where 150, 160 games are being postponed, which at this point is realistic, the way things have been going, you're going to be looking at, all right, well, now we have a 60-game season because that's just what we have to do.
Agreed. I mean, look, players want to play. You know, it's unfortunate that, you know, these games going to get postponed, but I know for a fact the league doesn't want to play go into August.
And that's where they're at. They have to figure it out because right now that's where they're looking.
Because they're already into July as more than
as of now, yeah.
100%. 100%. All right, let's move on to actual hockey talk now.
Yay!
To a topic that makes me very happy.
Oh.
Everything Kraken in Seattle. The floor is falling. The sky's falling. Ron Francis is a joke. Dave Haxtell needs to be canned. The Seattle Kraken should be relegated and sent back and never existed already. We're halfway through their first year, and I'm chalking them up to Atlanta Thrashers level bad. Ooh. They are a joke. That whole organization botched everything, and it just keeps getting worse. And I will soak it in and laugh all the way to the bank of money that I'm not getting paid for that prediction and thought. This makes me, from day one of hiring Ron Francis, I knew it was going to be a mess. Then they hired Dave Haxtell, who again should not be coaching as a head man in this league. And then the expansion draft comes and they just grab every mediocre player known to man because they're afraid of taking risks. And now they're reaping what they sow, and you're looking at another top 3 pick by the end of the season, the way they're going. Like, they're on par in my book. Like, I honestly, like, you got Montreal, Ottawa, and Arizona at the bottom of the league. Granted, Ottawa's only played 29 games.
What, are you going to throw Buffalo in that mix?
No, I think, granted, they've swept the Sabres, but Sabres, I don't think, are picking top 3 this year.
Oh,
they're close.
Seattle, I think, is guaranteed at this point top 2. I think by the end of the season, Arizona they're going to be last in the West. That's how bad I think Seattle is. That's how poor I think they're managed.
I think Arizona's still going to be last. I think Arizona's still going to be last.
Oh yeah, but Seattle's going to be second to last. There's no way right now that, I mean, you figure Ottawa's going to play enough games eventually. I mean, look, you know, other than the Islanders guys, Ottawa's the only team that's played less than 30 games.
Yeah, Ottawa has 29, the Islanders 28, and then everybody else is at least 30. Yeah.
It's pretty crazy.
That's crazy.
Next closest is Arizona at 33.
Yeah, nobody's. I mean, look,
no one cares.
I mean, look, Arizona can't even get their own potential arena deal right.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see who's in Houston. That's okay.
If they go to Houston, the NHL's officially a joke to me.
Well,
I don't even think Dallas should have
Arizona.
a team. Yeah, no, but I don't think Texas should have more than even one hockey team, let alone 2.
You know what? Dallas has worked out.
Barely.
Look.
Back-to-back Stanley Cup Finals, Stanley Cup Championship.
That doesn't mean it worked out. That just means the team was good. I don't care if the team's good. I think the market sucks.
But the barbecue is excellent.
It's so good.
No, it's not. Dallas is a shit city. Plain and simple. Top to bottom. When you can't get... No.
Wait. I will agree on one respect in this, and this crosses sports, so Ian's going to be happy about this. Yeah, beat Dallas is a definite hashtag in my household this week. Yes. As much as I equally hate the San Francisco 49ers for a lot of reasons as a Giants fan, it's still Dallas's worst. It's beat Dallas very, very simply. Now, that being said, you cannot channel the dark side here with the Buffalo Sabres hate of the Dallas Stars.
I don't care about that. I'm talking about Dallas as a city.
But this is how it's going to come across, no matter how you say it.
Let it come across. Dallas as a city is the shittiest major city I have ever visited in my life. I'd rather be isolated in Canada, Ontario, with nothing to do, which, unless you're going to a Senators game, there's nothing to do, than be in Dallas ever again.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. Yep.
Dallas You can't get food anywhere after 10 o'clock. They have these things like, oh, check out Dallas's nightlife. Bull. It's Friday night, a Saturday night. There's nothing to do, and it's like 80 degrees outside. So you sit in a hotel room and you eat 7-Eleven frozen pizza. That is what you do in Dallas. Dallas sucks. The Cowboys suck just because the Cowboys suck. The Mavericks, they suck. Can't wait for Luka Doncic to eventually leave, go win a championship elsewhere. The Dallas Stars, your team sucks because you ruined the color green for me, and you had a uterus on a uniform for 2 years. The Texas Rangers, they're so embarrassed of Dallas, they won't even call themselves Dallas. Dallas sucks. And they also hosted the worst WrestleMania of all time, which I unfortunately freaking went to.
That's true. They did. It was a bad WrestleMania.
Granted, I blame that injuries from WWE for that.
Now Mike is in trouble.
Oh, my mother has joined the chat and she knows. She knows Dallas sucks. Dallas, where they're like, oh, we'll Uber you. The Ubers are always late.
You know,
we got them going. We got them going off topic.
Wow,
Wow. We got them
in the 11
far off
years that I did the program, I never have had a rant quite like this.
Dude, I loved it. I loved it every minute of it.
And
that was great.
I loved it.
But I will say, I will give you the clap and the bow on Seattle because they are bad.
You called it.
You said
it from the beginning.
You called it from the beginning. The issue is they based their drafting on analytics. Their analytics team is poor. There were so many players they could have gotten that they decided not to get. Philip Grubauer has not worked out for this team. As you've stated, and I've got on board with this, Dave Haxtell is not a good coach, period. Can't hack it anymore. Not good. I think Ron Francis is a good general manager, but he drafted very poorly and based it all on analytics and not.
Well, then I guess he isn't a good general manager now, is he?
Yeah, Scott Stevens would disagree with that heavily.
I think, Scott Stevens would disagree with that. But they just did everything backwards, not Vegas Golden Knights style. And you could see what a truly an expansion team they are because they took everybody's misfit toys, to call it, and they're trying to ruffle through what's good. Defensively, they're not bad, but their key was defense, and it's not as good as it should be. Offensively, they have no scoring. Zero scoring. They need scoring badly. And they will be a definite seller at the trade deadline.
Yeah, and they have to be. Mm-hmm. And like, you got to think Giordano's gone.
He's going back to Calgary.
I wouldn't doubt it, which good for Calgary. They need it right now with the way they've kind of faltered a little bit down here the last few games. But they're going to be sellers. Another team that might be sellers that is just a little bit north, but we don't know, and we talked about him earlier with Evander Kane. Edmonton. How bad is it really? Like they make it sound like everything's in the locker room, blah, blah, blah. This is way more than that. Dave Tippett has lost that locker room. This team, and in my mind, because we saw it happen with Jack Eichel, my mind is McDavid is going to give them one final shot and give them an ultimatum of fix this or trade me.
Well, it's going to be one of the two. It may be one of the two. It's either going to be McDavid or it's going to be Draisaitl. One of them might decide, hey, I'm out, and I'm out now. But I agree. There's something wrong. I was listening to Ken Holland's presser today, and it was interesting because he said he doesn't like to fire coaches middle of the season. He rarely did it, if at all, in Detroit when he was there. He believes it's in the room. He said he's reached out to make trades to see if there's anything out there. It's a tough trade market, he said, right now. And, he said it's in the room and it might be down in Bakersfield. This team is not playing good defensively right now. They don't have help in goaltending, and this has been their Achilles heel all year. This they've been heavily criticized since the offseason for bringing back the same goaltending tandem they did last year with the market the way it was in the offseason. They could have upgraded over Mike Smith and Mikko Koskinen, and they
They
didn't do
should
it.
have.
And
You
they
have
should
Mikko
have.
Koskinen, who probably, in my mind, is a AHL starting goalie. That's his level. Mike Smith is done. I mean, he had his run with Arizona, but he's not the Mike Smith of Arizona days. Hell, I don't know who they're going to bring in next. Are they going to go back to 2007 and bring in Roley the goalie and get Dwayne Rollerson back through those doors? I don't know what the hell they're going to do, but there's just no way. Like you said it. The market was there.
The market was
Vegas
there.
was trading a goaltender who was a Hall of Fame goaltender. I'm pretty sure they could have had him had they wanted him.
Maybe they can get him now.
The thing is, would he approve to go? I mean, he might to get out of Chicago, but
I mean,
at this, the way both teams are playing at this rate, neither team's making the playoffs. So it doesn't matter.
But he could help with that situation in Edmonton.
Yeah,
because he knows how to win big games, especially down the stretch to get a team in there. Defensively, they need to update. I mean, they need a lot of help, but they also have to change the culture in this locker room or the culture on the ice, because you can clearly see the tailspin continue to happen. When they start to lose, it's losing in chunks. Yes, this team was the best team in the NHL at the beginning of December. They started off 9-1, but they were outscoring their problems. Now they can't outscore their problems, and that's the difference.
And basically, they're falling into what kills them in the playoffs. Where in the regular season, they've been able to coast by to the playoffs because they can outscore it. They get beat in the playoffs because of that. And now they're seeing it happen in the regular season because teams saw how to beat them in the playoffs, and they're getting it in the regular season now.
Yeah, I mean,
pretty sobering.
Let's talk about good teams playing better.
Yep.
Like I said, we have a stacked show. And we're going to stay in Canada here because we talked about it when the move was made about bringing in Bruce Boudreau. And since that move, there has been a rebirth in Vancouver. Now, are they likely to be a playoff team? If they keep playing this way, they will. They have turned themselves from they're near the bottom of the league to you can talk to them about catching up to that wild card spot because they're only 5 back. Granted, Calgary's currently in that spot at 33 games played and 40 points, but at 34 games and 35 points and 8-1-1 in their last 10, Vancouver is playing some of the best hockey that any team is playing because they have an offensive-minded coach who knows how to use players in the right situations offensively. And it's what we talked about when he was brought aboard, and it's what continues to happen. Granted, right now they're losing to Florida, but everybody really loses to Florida. So they're on a little thing where they got Florida today, and then they got Tampa Bay on Thursday. So they're facing two of the best teams.
And with Tampa Bay's offense,
and then they got Carolina
Buffalo right now, yeah.
Yeah, and granted, we might have an emergency backup situation going on in Buffalo, which at least make that game interesting. But you have a rough stretch for Vancouver with Florida tonight, Tampa Thursday, Carolina Saturday, Washington Sunday. So, and then Nashville, a team you're chasing in the playoff race, who somehow Nashville has gotten their way to first in the Central, which, to be honest, we talked about them still being okay. Chris was really high on them in our preview. I didn't see them looking at near halfway through the season being at the top of the Central at all. But Vancouver, Ken Boudreau, this little stretch of 4 games right here, 5 games, notwithstanding, Ken Boudreau get this team to continue playing at above level hockey that you see them push and get into that wild card spot?
They could do it. They could do it because of that division. You figure Anaheim's falling back. LA is what LA is going to be all season. They're right around there. And again, no one's really sure what Edmonton's going to do. I mean, they're kind of in their own mess. And Vegas is going to lap the field eventually.
Oh, once
So-
Eichel started skating with the team today, once he's back on and in form, that team's running away with that division.
Yeah,
And
it's pretty much over at that point. So
yeah, we knew what they were going to be once they got healthy, and they're starting to get healthy, and it's incredible hockey to watch.
Yeah, and the only thing I will say is, it's unfortunate that Max Pacioretty's out with the wrist. He's out another several weeks. Because wow, the star power in that Toronto Vegas game would be so. You imagine like just a fully healthy Toronto team and a fully healthy Vegas team, and just let them go.
American networks still wouldn't advertise it because it involves the Canadian market.
Yeah, exactly. That's true.
Grumble,
but I agree.
grumble.
I think I agree with Chris. I mean, look, Vancouver's playing really well. Bruce has got them playing well, especially on home ice. Like
Miller
you said,
scoring.
JT Miller scoring, Brock Vestor scoring, Elias Pettersson's playing better, Niels Höglander's playing great, Quinn Hughes on the back end. Like they're playing really well. Bubble Demko's is in fine form right now for them. But as he said, it's like we did it at home ice. Now we have to do it on other people's buildings. Like they have to go on the road and win games. Every game's not going to be on home ice. So this team can get back in the playoff mix. But as like what LA's doing, Vancouver's taking advantage of teams that are struggling. Calgary's struggling right now. Edmonton's struggling right now. Anaheim slipped back a little bit. So that's how they're able to make this charge. So I think they'll be battling for a wild card spot. I still don't know if they get in, but it's going to be very fun to see it towards the end of the year.
Yeah, and that's the thing. If Demko can keep playing the way he's been playing, which I was hoping he would this year, then they can, because to me, goaltending is what's going to get them to the playoffs. And if their goaltending performs better than Edmonton, San Jose, and Calgary, then you look at them and they're going to be getting in. Another team in that same division, it seems like this is Pacific night. Didn't plan for it to be that way, but this is just what happens. The LA Kings are playing some really good hockey too. They continued their nice winning ways last night against the Rangers. They're 6-3-1 in their last 10, 1-2. Their last two games, they're currently sitting third in the Pacific. Granted, again, they've played 3 more games than Calgary, only a point better. But right now, they are in a playoff spot. They are fighting for a playoff spot. They are playing better hockey than what anybody expected them to be playing this year. And they got tough ties. Ansei Kopitar is just under a point per game this season, which turn back the clock Kopitar continues to happen this season. Is this a team? It's the same thing as Vancouver. Is this a team that you could see keeping this? Jim, we'll start with you. That you could see keeping this run going?
I could see it going. I mean, they're getting great goaltending right now. Jonathan Quick and Cal Peterson are playing really well. Like as you mentioned, Ansei Kopitar. I mean, another guy that's turned back the clock for them is Drew Doughty. I mean, he's come back in fine form for them. Up and down the lineup, they've been able to add pieces. Deneau's been a really good fit for them at that center position. That's allowed Kopitar to just be more offensive right now. He doesn't have to worry about playing too much defense. He's still great at that, but he can be more offensively minded with a guy like Deneau there. Even on the wings too, Athanasiou's great ad. They're playing really, really good hockey right now, and they're taking advantage of the schedule, and they're taking, as I mentioned before, they're taking advantage of teams that are struggling in that division ahead of them, and that's what they have to do. But, like Vancouver, I think they're going to be in the mix to the end. Will they cross the finish line? I don't know if they will. But right now, if they continue playing like this, they can. But again, it's going to be tough because I think you're going to see Calgary to start turning things around. I think Edmonton finally figures it out and turn things around. This Pacific Division is more competitive this year than we thought it was going to be. Entering the season, we all thought it was 2-team race, and everybody else, it's more than a 2-team race right now.
See, to me, it's not a 2-team race. It's a 1-team race with every other team being bad or mediocre
or not as good.
Or it's not as. I mean, no one's as good as Vegas, but I'm saying competitive wise, we always thought it was Vegas, Edmonton running away with it, and then okay, who's the rest to fill it out? Now everybody else it's competitive amongst those teams. And even they're making it competitive with Vegas, because not like Vegas is blowing out the doors on everybody. they have question marks, especially in goal. They don't have a backup goaltender that they trust.
No. And to be fair, I don't even trust their starter.
No.
So yeah, that's one thing. And with LA specifically, you have Adrian Kempe, who there's no way he keeps up. He leads the team in goals with 16. Only him and Iafallo have double-digit goals. But Kempe is shooting 15%. Like, there's no way that continues for the rest of the season.
Right.
So he's going to come down to earth eventually. And he's looked really good. So, I mean, he's getting himself into prime scoring position every night. He's getting the shots off when he needs to. His release looks fantastic this season. To where it's like, okay, I not expecting him to keep it up, but I can see why he's scoring these goals. I mean, he's got a goal in 3 of the last 4 games.
Mm-hmm.
He's just his ice time. He's hovering around 20 minutes. It's just he's taking his shots, but he's making sure all of his shots are quality shots. He's averaging about 4 shots a game, and they at least 2 to 3 of them are high quality scoring chances when he takes them. So it's not like he's just throwing the puck at the net and getting lucky. He's getting into prime spots. So do I see 15% sticking? No, not at all. Do I see him still finishing the season in double-digit percentage? The way he's playing right now, it's hard to not think so. And if he can keep that up, then LA, if he can keep the scoring up and they can get some more scoring outside of him and they get some more players, like if Iafallo can come up and get some more goals, like again, he's second on the team. If Arvidsson can get some, if Denault can get some, they need some more scoring because that's the one thing.
No about it.
Not Martin Jones. Jonathan Quick is playing really well. His record may not show it at 10-8-4, but he's 10-8-4. So overall, he's 10-12 with a 2.4 goals against and a 921 save. The guy gets no goal support. He, to be fair, is a major reason why the Kings are in this spot. And if LA can get some goals, which if they're in this place in another month or so, that's probably what they target at the deadline.
Mm-hmm.
If they can get some goals, they can become really scary because it's also hard to see goaltending stay the way it is with Jonathan Quick.
Yeah.
And Cal Peterson, I mean, he's not doing too shabby either with the 2-7. So, I mean, their goaltending situation has been a big reason. LA's a team I do like this year. They've been enjoyable to watch.
I mean, look, with Quick, it took him a little bit to get over hip surgery, and that's usually what happens with these goalies. It took Rene a while. It took Quick a while, and now Quick's back to fine form. So if he can continue to play like this, the Kings are going to be in the race till the end of the season.
Exactly. And I don't know if Anaheim's kind of come back down to earth. It's going to be interesting to see because do I think both Anaheim and LA make the playoffs? No. I honestly, if I were to put money on it right now, which in New York you finally can, if I were to put money on it now, I'd probably pick the Kings over the Ducks between the 2 Orange County teams to make the playoffs. And that's just because the goaltending in LA has been a lot better than the goaltending in Anaheim. And I put more stake in goaltending, I think, than a lot of people do. I'm of those mindset, like people say, don't pay goaltenders. I'm of the mindset, pay goaltenders.
Yeah, I mean, look, it depends on the contract with goaltenders. You know, you don't want to pay them too much over too much term. But if they're the back,
yeah, you don't want a Bobrovsky in Florida contract, but right, I'm never going to be against 4 years at like 10 mil. I'm not going to be against that.
No, I won't be against it either. Or similar to what Shesterkin will probably, what he got in New York and stuff. I'm not opposed to that contract at all. What I am opposed to is the $10 million over 8 years that Bobrovsky got. That I'm not a fan of. But especially the way Quick's been playing, he was a potential trade target. Now they got to look to, they're going to be keeping him for a while now.
Yeah. And we're going to move on. We got a couple more things to get to. Again, we are bouncing on, but we're staking. I have my rundown and we are sticking. It's 8:50 and I'm right on where I need to be time-wise, man.
We're blazing it.
Jim, you wanted on my show on Friday, I went on about fixing the NHL's overtime rule. You wanted to touch base on NHL's overtime. What can this league do to make these games enjoyable once 60 minutes come to an end?
Look, they got to either, there's two things they have to do. They have to either, if you're going to let these teams do what they do in the overtime, then you don't even have the shootout anymore and just call a game a tie, because it's a joke of what these teams do in overtime. Either increase overtime by 4 minutes, or by 4 minutes or whatever, 5 minutes, and play the first half 4-on-4, and then play the second half 3-on-3, so we can have a winner. Or you're going to have to do a point system where the regulation matters more than overtime, so these games don't get to that point and teams play all out, because you cannot continue to have some of these overtimes be just slowed down to nothing. I've seen a lot of good overtimes, but recently I've seen a lot of bad overtimes because guys just hold the puck on way too long, sit behind the net. It's not a bad strategy if you're playing roller hockey, but in the NHL, people want to have fun. That's what they saw 3-on-3. If that's what it's going to be, time to get rid of the shootout and figure out how we're going to make overtime matter again.
Chris, do you have anything to add to that?
Look, I've seen it too many times. I've seen like what I like to call the vicious circle, and you see the players just going around and around and around. And it's like, okay, well, we either got two options. We either go back to the old system, which doesn't really exactly work for the 21st century anymore, or you make everything a shootout, which is no, definitely not. We're not doing that. So you're at this point now where it's like, okay, we need some oomph, and the question becomes, how do you get that excitement in this? And look, we're not going to go 2-on-2.
I mean, it would be fun.
Oh God, it'd
Yeah,
be
but
hysterically fun.
I think it'd be funny in the
dead.
sad sense.
Yeah,
it's kind of, you feel sorry for the one person that's inevitably left on an island on a 2-0 that happens like every shift. But there's ways to go about it. I mean, you just have to do something that can be agreed upon, and that's the biggest problem with the NHL right now, is to get anybody to agree on one concept with this.
As we wrap up tonight's show, there is one player making his return tonight that I am so excited to watch in about an hour. And that's Evgeny Malkin. He's finally back for a Pittsburgh team that just doesn't go away.
It doesn't really need him.
No, they're 9-1 in their last 10. They finally lost their last game.
You mean 10-1 in their last 11?
Yeah, but I don't look at last 11. That's an odd number. That's stupid. I don't like odd numbers, damn it.
Well, they went on a 10-game winning streak.
Exactly. So this is a team that everything is clicking. Mike Sullivan, everything. When you think, okay, we talked about when we did our season preview, we talked for like 20 minutes. If the window of the Penguins was closing, and if things are going to start to slow down, and we were all kind of like, and I was full on like, yeah, this is it. Yeah, I'm eating crow. This team is playing ridiculously good hockey, and at this rate, I won't be surprised if we see them at the top of the division. I still think it's Carolina's division, but they're going to make it a lot closer by the end of it than what I think people thought, including myself. And I hate to admit it. Because they just, every time you think they're going to be out, they just come out and they're like, nah, we're the Penguins.
We pull you right back in.
I don't like it.
They pull you right back in, damn it. They do.
They have that way.
Look, 10 games ago, they weren't in the playoffs. But yet, Evan Rodriguez, Jake Getzel, Brian Rust were producing. Sidney Crosby's back in the lineup. It felt like over this stretch, Crosby didn't do a lot. It was Rodriguez and Getzel.
This Rodriguez run this Rodriguez run has sparked a lot of debate in Buffalo. Because there's the analytics darlings who always knew Rodriguez had this kind of ability once he hit it in a right scenario. Which with players, that a point of analytics, a part of it is players being put in the right situations.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the eye test people who say, well, he sucked here. Well, I mean, everybody sucks here. That's Buffalo for you with the Sabres. Like, Gretzky couldn't make this team competitive. Prime Gretzky.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe.
No. This team would still... Okay, this team wouldn't be a bottom 5. They'd be a bottom 10 team.
Yeah, so, bottom 10. Yeah, but
they'd be a bottom 10 in a 50-team league.
The sad part is, though, Rodriguez actually played well. I don't know what eye test people thought he sucked in Buffalo, because I thought he played really well.
He just couldn't find the back of the net.
No, but
that's
he was
the eye test.
Really well.
That's the eye test. The people around here who like
stat test. That's the stat test.
Yeah, but the people around here who like to say the eye test are the ones who look pretty much solely at the stat sheet.
Yeah,
and they're all the old guard. Granted, I'm not all in on analytics completely. I'm not analytics over everything. I'm a mix of both. But these are the people who completely ignore analytics and only look at the they still think plus minus is a viable stat in hockey. They also think wins is a quarterback stat in football. So it's one of those, exactly. But it's one of those things, if that's what we kind of have to deal with. And you know what else people have to deal with? They have to deal with us again. Not tonight, but next Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Also, this Friday, Mike Saves Hockey, 3 p.m. Eastern on Twitter.com/FullPressNHL.
All right, Mick Foley.
I'll cheap plug it all day. It's a new show. We got to get them views in the afternoon. It's a great afternoon listen on Full Press Radio.
I mean, I
Twitch.tv/Full Press coverage. And I wish I had my Dallas rant then, but no, this Dallas rant's going. It's going to be clipped later, and it's going. I'm posting it because Dallas still sucks. And it will forever suck.
Yo, beat Dallas.
Until the end of time. Hashtag beat Dallas. Hashtag Dallas go away. Hashtag see you next week here on Full Press Hockey Weekly. For Jim and Chris, I'm Mike. Take care. Be safe with everyone. And have a great evening. Pack it up, pack it in.